أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا كريم. Oh Allah, help us learn what is beneficial to us. Help us benefit from what you have enabled us to learn and increase our knowledge. Ameen. And again, with our constant reminders that our kids are their a responsibility. They are a trust that Allah gave to us, a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So taking care of them is not optional. It's an amana, okay? And doing that only for his sake is something that we need to strive to do. So I know sometimes we get consumed in life and problems and this and that, and we forget and we do it automatically. But that's why a good reminder whenever we meet is just again to purify our intentions that we're doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for our egos, not for our desires, not because we own them, not because we want them to fulfill our dreams, not because of all of that. It's just because they are an amana and we have to do it for purely and only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And let me tell you that if we're really able to reach that point of intention, subhanallah, life becomes so easy. Not so easy, but easy. Because you feel like you will do your best. You will do all the sa'i. We have to do the sa'i, the effort, right? We will read, we will learn, we will make dua, we will try, we will do our best. But then you feel like, it's not in my hands. It's I'm doing this for you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even if something goes wrong, it's because of a wisdom. There's a hikmah in that. So we will accept it. But when it's our own and they represent us and they are our, we want this and we want that and what people are going to say. And, this makes it very hard and very tight in our chests. So subhanallah, purifying our intention is critical, for this beautiful acceptance, inshallah. Also, never forget the power of dua. Most important thing. Yes, we learn. Yes, we will watch videos. Yes, we will read books. Yes, we will ask. We will consult. We will do all of that. But dua is the most important thing, because the barakah, again, the blessing that Allah and the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us is way much more important than anything else. And he is the one who told us to learn and seek knowledge, right? So we're doing it again for his sake. Okay, so that is a quick reminder. Let's just dive into our session then, in Bismillah. So we are last time, this is just the overview of our workshop series. And we finished number 1 and 2. So basically we finished Understand Yourself. We talked about the barriers that can hold us back from achieving or establishing a positive relationship and a secure attachment with our kids. We talked about the effect or the impact of our own attachment with our parents, the way emotions were handled in our family, and how it affected our view of emotions. And we talked about the emotional styles. And also we talked about the personality priorities and how they influence our kids and influence our interaction with our kids. Then in the second session, we spoke about understanding our own kids, and we talked mainly about 3 items as well. Their basic social emotional needs, which are the 6 S's. And then we spoke about the temperament traits, the 9 temperament traits. And we also spoke about the brain science and how does the brain work, right? And we talked about the flipped lid and the emotional brain, and how we should calm the emotional brain, never make decisions when we're emotional because of that brain dynamic, and the archive, and how the archive or the collective experiences throughout our life affects everything, all the decisions, all the feelings that we have, right? Including, of course, raising our kids. Actually, raising our kids subhanallah, can be the most triggering because it kind of awakens the childhood, insecurities and traumas and experiences and images, subhanallah. So it can really be a challenging experience. So starting today, inshallah, and for the next three sessions, like today and the next three sessions, inshallah, we are going to be talking about the key elements that are needed to establish the secure attachment and that positive relationships with our kids. Okay. Again, just a quick reminder about secure attachment. Secure attachment is this emotional bond. It's something that we cannot see. Actually, we can see the manifestation of this bonding, but it's this attachment. It's this bond between us and our kids, caregivers and kids, when we really give them their social emotional needs, the 6 S's, and when we are always present in their life, physically, mentally, emotionally, we're always there around them in a good way, not in a suffocating way, not in a controlling way. We're there in a responsive way. And we said that secure attachment, there are 2 major parts if I want to say what is attachment or secure attachment. So the main 2 components are being consistent and sensitive. There's the consistent and sensitive attunement and the responsiveness, right? And we said these 2 components can explain it all. Like I can say, if you want to build a secure attachment, that's all what you need to know. The end. Consistent, sensitive attunement, and number 2, responsive engagement or being responsive. Appropriate response, of course, right? But because for the sake of making this more practical and more easy to grasp, we kind of try to see the elements that we can explain and give tips so that we can do it practically on the ground. But that does not mean that we should ignore actually these, because this is the core of the secure attachment. When I say attunement, when I say consistent and sensitive attunement, what's attunement? It is to recognize and empathize with the child emotional state. Meaning we can understand our kids, not ourselves, not our needs, not what we want from them, right? How they feel, what they need, right? How they think, what state of mind are they in? That is the attunement. You have to attune to that. Basically, you have to kind of understand their perception, where they're coming from, what is their stand, okay? First, to be able to help them, forward. So, and for us to recognize, and I know it can get really deep, but I don't want to go in depth, but even recognizing is not an easy thing. Like when I tell you, oh, we have to recognize where they are. And okay, even that is a very hard concept, because for us to really recognize accurately, we have to put ourselves in their shoes. We have to accurately perceive where they're coming from, okay? And understand. And sometimes it's very hard, because for us we perceive our understanding, our conditioning, our experiences. So it's hard for us to have this, what Dr. Daniel Siegel called the mind sight. Oh, this is me wanting this. This is me seeing that as bad or wrong. But how does the kid see it? What does he understand? What does he do? What does he need? Sometimes it's very hard for us to kind of separate the 2. For example, when you see your 4 or 5 years old sad for a piece of chocolate, okay? If you don't understand his perception of the chocolate, if you don't understand, oh, he's 4, to him, that's the world, that's the most important thing. Okay, not the most important, but one of the most important things in life for a 4-year-old is that piece of chocolate, for example, or that toy that got broken when we gave the example last time. Okay, for us, if we kept seeing this the way we see it, our perception of it, it's like It's just a toy. So what if a toy broke? You know, oh, he's just so spoiled. Wait until you're worried about putting food on the table and finding shelter and finding a job. That's not his world. That's our world. And sometimes doing this separation is hard. We have to train ourselves, right, to see things from the other person's point of view. And after recognizing that, we have to empathize. Like, put yourself in his shoes as a 4 years old, not as the parent who is 30 years old. Correct? So that by itself needs mental ability. It needs work. It needs training. Okay. So you see your kid. So rather than telling him, "Oh, you're so silly. Why are you crying?" Because your fears will come into the equation. Like, "Oh my God, he's gonna be selfish. He's gonna be so silly and so superficial because he's crying for a piece of chocolate." Come on, that's his world. That's your world. So the problem that we always encounter is we judge the kids' world based on our world. And this does not mean in any way, shape, or form that you don't teach. You don't teach them, you know, that these are things, and sometimes things happen. We have to accept and we have to problem solve. Actually, that's our job to do that. But in order for us to successfully, which is the responsiveness, which what we call the being like the appropriate response, okay, or act effectively. We said that we have to empathize and act effectively, right? So to act effectively, we have to attune. We have to understand the real story from his point of view. So for me to see that, I was like, oh, you know, he's just a kid. To him, that's all what he can get. I want to teach him that things happen and it's okay sometimes if the toy broke, and sometimes we might not be able to fix it or buy another toy, and but this is a long-term process. But in order for us to be able to even do that, okay, we have to the first step is to, you know, to see him, okay, to see where he is first, and then teach him where we want to go. You cannot just force yourself, or, you know, be forcing all your experiences on a 4 years old who does not get it. So you have to go to their level, empathize. That's why attunement is crucial. And that's what I find like a lot of parents missing, is like they are they're great parents and they want the best and everything, and sometimes they ask me to give them tools, like, and I would say, okay, do problem solving, do this, do that, but what sometimes is missing, and it's something that I'm trying as much as possible to make it more tangible, is how to connect to the inner state of the child, how to understand him, and then go to his level, empathize with him, doesn't mean approve of his behavior, okay, and then teach him the right thing, okay. So anyways, for the sake of making this more simple, because I can stay and talk about attunement and responsiveness for 10 hours, and then we don't have something that's really tangible, something that you can hold on in your hand. What should I do now? Okay, so I will try as much as possible, or psychologists tried, and parent educators try to put them into a more practical and tangible items, okay. And that's why, you know, I kind of compiled them from different places and different books and different even schools of thought, and put them together on those on these 6 S's, right? To make it just more practical. The second thing is, as we go and discuss the 6 S's, you will find that a lot of overlap, you know, because it's just one thing. It's this attunement and responsiveness, but we want to make it practical. So sometimes you will find overlap. It's okay. I might discuss some, like an item in one S, and then you will find it also a part of a second S. Okay, so don't worry about that. It's not a replication. It's just, you know, they work together comprehensively, inshallah. So our first S that we're going to start with today is safe. So kids, this is their first, it's basic social emotional need according to all kind of categorization. Like all schools of psychology put safe as like the kind of basic. They need to feel safe, okay? So how can you make your kids feel safe? How can you make them feel safe in your relationship with you? To make it, again, more practical and more tangible, that things to do or things actually not to do, okay, we put them into 3 categories. Number 1 is keep children safe from harm. No harm done. We don't want to harm the kids. Number 2, when we do, because we're humans and sometimes things will happen, when we do something wrong, we need to repair the rupture that happened. Because with those mistakes, there's a breach in the relationship, in the connectedness. So we need to repair. Don't say, ah, khalas, it's okay. You know, what happened, happened. Okay, what happened, happened. You know, fix it. And number 3 is to create a safe and positive home environment. The home environment in general, not when kids make mistakes or not when anyone makes mistakes. The regular day-to-day activity has to be a safe environment, not like a controlling environment, not like a toxic environment, right? And we will talk about all of these in details. I tried as much as possible to provide you with like tips and what to do, do's and don'ts, so it's more practical to implement, okay? So number 1, item 1, keep children safe from harm, okay? How does this work? First, we need to protect our kids from any harm, meaning, you know, basically external, whether external or internal. First, let's provide that. Of course, I don't want to talk about providing the physical needs, food, shelter, clothing, those things. Of course, everyone knows about that. Inshallah, I don't expect anyone not to be providing these, but these are basic physical and physiological needs, right? So that's number 1. But what we will focus on is how to protect them from both physical and emotional harm. Physical harm is when what happened? Physical harm is when whether external threats at school, in the supermarket, when someone says something bad or do something bad, and alhamdulillah, all of us are, the majority of us are good, excellent in that, right? We don't want anyone to touch our kids or hurt them, which is great. But my concern, or the main concern, is how are you going to protect them from our own unintentional harm? As parents and as caregivers, we do harm our kids unintentionally. Sometimes we become aware of it and say, oh my God, like I did that. This is not the best practice. I shouldn't have done this, you know, this and that. But sometimes we're not even aware of that. We think that that's okay. That's normal. Everyone does that. So shouldn't it be normal? Maybe it's normal, but it's not healthy, right? Normal does not mean healthy, because who creates the norm? People creates the norm. We can change the norm for anything, for the dress code, right? Does it make it right? No. Does it make it healthy? No. Does it make it halal? No. So not because it's normal, it means that it's healthy and it's halal and it's okay. So what are the things that we need to basically, how to protect our kids from our own harm? So not to be the source of harm. We are supposed to be the source of comfort, the source of security. We are supposed to be basically the safe haven for our kids, not a seat of, you know, fear and pain. And some parents, unfortunately, are. And a lot of times, actually, it's without them recognizing that, because they think they're doing the right thing. They hurt their kids. They scare them, but they're not aware. They're thinking, oh, that's like, you know, that's how we raise kids. This is how it happens. But alhamdulillah, that's why when we seek knowledge and we learn more, we know more. So the first item, the first way parents can hurt and cause harm to their kids is through what we call the adverse childhood experiences. Adverse child experiences, or, shortly they call it ACE or ACEs. These are basically highly stressful and potentially traumatic experiences and situations that, when occurs in childhood, which is basically ages 0 or birth to 17, that's childhood, right, can have a profound impact on the developing child. The brain, the emotions, the cognition, everything, you name it. Profound impact, right? So what are these? There are 10 basic, ACEs, 10 basic things, and they added more, of course, but the 10 basics ones are abuse, any form of abuse, whether physical, emotional, or sexual. Neglect, whether physical or emotional. And then household dysfunction. And inshallah, I'm hoping no one here attending this live is doing any of that, but for the sake of awareness, I need to talk about it. I will try as much as possible to talk about it briefly, so I don't take a lot of time, but it's important to address ACEs, right? Because of the profound impact that it has on the child mental well-being. So basically, abuse and neglect, as you see, is something that we do directly to kids. Kids are subjected to it directly, like whether physical, whether emotional, whether sexual, and neglect is the same. You just neglect the child, whether physically or emotionally. But also, they found that the child can be equally traumatized by just witnessing certain things. And what they included in the basic 10 things is domestic violence. So yes, maybe you're not, beating the child, but if the child is subjected to a pattern or repeated, abuse at home to someone else, whether the dad is hitting the mom or whatever, any kind of domestic violence going on, and the child, although it's not happening to him, is witnessing this, it does the same thing. It can cause trauma. Okay. Parental substance abuse, parental mental illness, kids who are raised by parents who are mentally ill, they need to seek help, right? And mental illness is not, it doesn't have to be like anything that will affect the daily activity, the functionality of it can be anything. It can be anxiety, severe anxiety, depression. It can be, all the spectrum of mental illnesses, right? Because anything that will affect your interaction with the kid or the household and the kid will witness might affect the child as well. Of course, little things are not going to be impactful, right? It all depends on the severity, it depends on how severe, the age of the child, how frequent it happens and stuff like that. But the thing is, these are the 10 items that the basic 10 ACEs that they identify: mental illness, incarceration, separation, or divorce. Okay. So someone might say, okay, so does this mean that everyone who is subjected to these ACEs will get traumatized? No, doesn't have to be the case. Okay, let me just clarify. I don't want anyone panicking. These are highly stressful situations. These 10 are in the category of highly stressful situations. Okay, and they are potentially traumatic. Yani it's easy to lead to traumatic experiences. Okay, but there are certain things that can protect the kids from or whether increase the chances of trauma or decrease the chances of trauma. Like what? For example, the intensity and the duration of exposure to that abuse or to that situation. Number 2, how frequent it happened. Like if it happened once or twice and it wasn't that severe, maybe it will slide. But if it's something that's going on continuously, that can be very impactful. The age of the child. Okay, the younger the kid, the more like he's not able to understand or make sense of, because his brain doesn't have the capacity or the ability to understand symbolism or abstract thinking or what does this mean. They only understand concrete, what's happening in front of them. That's all what they can understand. So it can be really scary if he's seeing, for example, like domestic violence. This can be really scary, although he's not get hit. Yet the witnessing that can be really traumatizing. Okay. Also, the personality child. Remember, we said that every child has, certain, traits, and then what did he gain over the years? So some kids are more resilient than others. Some kids can cope better than others. So that also is a factor. But one really, really, really important factor is what we call the pieces, or just like ACEs, those are called pieces, or PS, PCES, or sometimes they call it PCEs. Okay, what is that? Basically, the pieces are, or the positive childhood experience. It's the opposite. So ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. Pieces, or PCEs, are the positive childhood experiences, right? Like what? What would be considered a positive childhood experience? They also named 7 basic ones. Kids who have those, the more you have from the PCEs, the more mentally healthy you are, and the more you can express, seek social and emotional support, the more you're open, the more resilient you are. What are these? Related to family, they identified, listen to this, the ability to talk with family about feelings. The ability to talk with family about feelings. That is one big chunk of something that supports you, and it's considered what can help the child, as we said, to develop resilience and mental well-being. One of them is to feel safe and protected by an adult at home, which is the opposite of ACEs, right? So that's why even if the child is subjected, let's say, to that, if there is an adult in the home that can help the child and support him, okay, then this can, the presence basically of a loving and supporting and stable relationship with the child from a caregiver can buffer and sometimes actually reverse the ACEs. It depends on how, impactful this is. So what I'm saying is, just like ACEs are things that can damage the mental well-being of the child at all levels, like physical, mental, emotional, cognitive behavior changes that it can cause. The presence of an adult or caregiver at home, that's a caregiver, who makes the child feel safe and protected, is crucial. What else? Again, having the ability to talk to family or adults in the family about feelings. What else are considered PACEs? Having a family that is supportive during difficult time. These are all included in the S's, by the way. You will find those in some of the S's. The fact that I can talk about my feelings, you will find this in the seen and the soothed. S number 2 and S number 3. The fact that supportive during difficult times, that S number 3, feeling soothed, right? The presence of even non-parent or non-caregiver adults. They found that if the kid has at least two non-parent adults, okay, who care for him and take care of him, is one of the pieces or paces, whatever, however you want to say it. Okay, so these are 4 of the 7. The others is, believe it or not, participation in community tradition. So taking our kids to the masajid and interacting with the bigger community and identifying with that is one of the items that promote mental well-being. Subhanallah. The other two items belong to school, or, you know, basically the place where the kid is in. So if they're going to school, they found that a sense of belonging to a high school, if the kids is going to school, is one of those. And having feeling supported by friends is صحبة. Okay, good صحبة inshallah يعني, right, is one. So those are actually the 7 PCEs that promote mental well-being. And if they are present, so even if the kid sometimes is subjected to some ACEs or adverse experiences, and if the pieces or PCEs are good enough, they can support the child, okay, to and buffer to an extent, and sometimes reverse the ACEs. Doesn't mean that we stay with the ACEs, of course. Anyone who is subjected to any of these 10 needs immediate professional help, whether the parent or the kid. So in a household where there's abuse or neglect or domestic violence or any of that, both parents and kids need professional help, because that is a high level stress. And as I said, it is really potentially traumatic. Okay, so that's number one. So first item is, let's protect our kids from ACEs. Let's not do that to them. Okay, the second thing is avoid fear-based strategies. Avoid fear-based strategies. What is that? Let me share a story with you. Let's come up with a name. Let's say Ahmed. Okay. Ahmed and his sibling live in a good household. They're good. They're living good, well-to-do. He goes to school. They have a good house and in a good neighborhood. They live a good life, alhamdulillah. But Ahmed's dad or mom, I don't mean to discriminate, but like just for the sake of the example, let's say Ahmed's dad, okay, has his own way of disciplining. And whenever the kids make, whether small or big mistakes, you know, he is doing his thing. So last time Ahmed didn't study well for his math exam, and he ended up with a bad grade in the test. He went home and dad started yelling at the top of his lungs, telling him how lazy and irresponsible he is, and how he will fail in life, and he will never be something in life because he's lazy. Okay. In addition to that, he withdrew all his games and screen privileges for a month. And then after that, he decided to ignore him, and he gave him the silent treatment for a week. He's not talking to him. He's upset at him. Okay. So the tactics that Ahmed's dad are using, and a lot of parents, subhanallah, are convinced that, you know, they always say, oh, that's how we were raised, and we turn out to be good. Okay, we can question that, but now is not the right time. So the thing is, these tactics are called, these are punitive tactics. These are called fear-based tactics or fear-based punitive strategy. What does that mean? Let's first identify punishment. Punishment is basically to impose. What is punishment? It is to impose an adverse or painful effect as a deterrent to improve behavior, for improper behavior, so that we stop the behavior, the bad behavior. Okay, that's punishment, as was, you know, identified by Skinner. It's called Skinner operant conditioning, and that is punishment. Is like, you know, he had this experiment, and every time, you know, rats will be, you know, will do something, touch certain area, they will have like a short, like, you know, will be kind of an electric impulse. Anyways, let's not go to that. But the point is that punishment is to inflict pain. So you're afraid of the pain. So it's fear and pain based strategy. Okay, so it's supposedly changing the behavior through fear and pain. These strategies might work okay with mice or with some lab animals. And if it's even okay, honestly, it can change the behavior, right? Of primitive animals, I would say. But humans are not like that. We're not like that. We're way more complicated than that. The way our brain works, like I showed you last time, right, doesn't work this way. Okay, maybe it's going to be a deterrent for a while. Maybe it's going to give you immediate results, and we will see that. But on what expense? That is, and that's why even Skinner himself said, I don't recommend using these tactics with humans because they have like adversary effects or consequences. But anyways, we can use, you know, let's leave it there. But so basically, any action that or any strategy that we use as parents, and the goal of this strategy, okay, is not to teach the rational brain. It's focusing on teach. That's what parents say, that we were teaching them through pain. We're teaching them through fear. Okay. The problem with that is like it acts on a different part of the brain. It acts on the level of the emotional brain, not the rational brain. So we're defining our own purpose. What are strategies that we do that will go under this, like the fear-based strategies? Number one, physical punishment. Physical punishment is one of those. Emotional punishment, like what? What would be called emotional punishment? Okay. When we yell, scold, call names. Oh, you're so silly, you're so clumsy, you're so this and that. When we label our kids, that is punitive, because the kid's brain, emotional brain, got the word. And kids have 6 S's, right? They need to feel safe. They need to feel successful. So when a dad say, oh, you're a failure, you're such a loser, or you're such a this and that, or you're dumb and clumsy, when we say things like that, thinking that we're motivating kids, I don't know how we think this way, but we think that when we say that, the kid somehow will say, oh yeah, Baba's right or Mama's right. That brains do not work this way. And if you want a proof, just let it happen with you. See if someone tell you the same thing, how would you feel? Are you going to say, oh yeah, right, he's right, I am stupid? And no, that it doesn't work this way. And even if your brain somehow you you programmed it to accept that because you're an adult, kid's brain does not have these abilities. Okay? So when we yell and scold and call names, when we threaten and intimidate and humiliate and be disrespectful, when we blame and shame and inflict guilt and judgment and sarcasm, you know, you have a list. I put the list on the slide, so you can just check all of them, right? All of these are tactics that are more like they're acting on the level of the emotional brain. That's not teaching, okay? And they kind of trigger emotional brain into the stress response. Stressful. You will hear me saying stress a lot because that is a stress response. It releases chemicals and it causes things we're going to see. So the thing is, when we do that, the kid usually goes with the fight, flight response. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. Now they added a fawn, they added faint, but anyways. So when we give like illogical actions and extra withdrawal of privilege. When we do all of these are all considered punitive techniques. Even frightening facial expression are punitive, especially for young kids. Yeah, some parents told me they do that. They said, I have this like scary, they know, I have this scary look. So when my kiddo does something that I don't like, I just give him the look and I know he's frightened. Okay? So all of these are tactics that are gonna work on the level of the emotional brain. Ignoring, I know a lot of people, and I know I wanna take some time to discuss this because I see this a lot. Like, subhanallah, it's like, if I say 80% of the problems that I receive are within those areas. Is like, the parents who will just ignore or give the silent treatment. This is one very, you're going to tell me, oh, this is not fear-based, right? Because there's no fear. Like, Baba is not talking to me. So what? Where's the fear? Actually, let me tell you something amazing. Fear does not mean, oh my God, I'm afraid, I'm scared. It's not. Fear is something that your brain is telling. When you deprive kids from their needs, from their 6 S's, there is some kind of a fear. Fear for the well-being, fear for the self. It doesn't have to be fear as scared from someone or something, right? So they found that actually when we do this whole stonewalling or silent treatment, is like, you did something wrong, I'm not talking to you, and as if you're air, you're not here, I don't see you. When we do that, thinking that this is a great tactic, they found that this kind of tactic actually works or activates the same area of the brain that is activated by physical pain. Physical pain. Subhanallah. And it causes, it causes the person to disconnect. The child immediately loses connection. It's as if they feel kind of, call it temporarily abandoned, as if you left him. You're still there, but you're not talking to him. It gives the same effect. Okay? So kids are scared. This is fear. They're scared because kids leave the sense of safety is crucial. Connection is crucial for the sense of safety. I need to be connected. Okay? I need an adult. I need my caregiver. I need to belong to someone. So when parents do that, thinking that it's, so what, it's a little thing, at least I didn't hit him, right? They're all wrong. I cannot say that one is better than the other, but that one, because I had this parent say, oh, I don't talk to, I didn't do anything, why is he scared? It's a different kind of fear. Okay, he's afraid for his well-being. His safety is kind of like shook to the core when we do things like that. So just let's know a little bit about these tactics and the effect of, before we start applying them. And as I said, remember this from last time, we said that anything that happens to us, right, it goes to the emotional brain, correct? And the emotional brain has the needs. So when I get ignored, it's taking the need for, for safety. It's taking the need for connection. By the way, safety, the first 3 S's are basically create the sense of connectedness and belonging. So when you deprive me from like a main social basic need, that is is scary to a child. We don't feel it because we're adults. We don't, we're not afraid if someone stonewall us, or we get bothered, we get frustrated, we get angry, but we don't get scared, or maybe some will. So the thing is, when we use those tactics, and I'm moving my cursor so you can follow up with me. So when parents do these punitive tactics that we talked about, they go into the emotional brain, and the kid feel, whether the pain, whether the fear, whether a humiliation, all of these takes from his sense of self. And that creates like whatever, fear, anger, frustration, you name it. And that, correct, especially with a brain that's still under construction, rational brain still under construction, what will happen is, usually that the child does not know what to do. So this initiate a stress response and will go into a fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, which we see as misbehavior later on. And we talked about that. The problem is there's no learning going on. When the emotional brain hijacks the brain, rational brain is not working. So remember when we said Dr. Daniel Siegel did the hand model of the brain? So when the emotional brain takes over, what happens is there is disintegration between the rational brain, which is that part, and the emotions. We cannot make sense of things. So what happened is there's no learning. You cannot learn if your rational brain is not intact, is not integrated. No one taught problem solving, right? No one taught critical thinking. No one taught values. No one taught, actually what we taught is we modeled the wrong behavior. When we do that, we model the wrong behavior. And no surprise that when the kids grow up a little, parents will come and say, my kid is always loud. And when he gets angry, he yells and screams. He needs anger management. And then when we talk a little bit more, it's like, how do you manage, problems? Oh, I yell at him. It's like, okay. That's modeling. That's called social learning. I learned, not rational learning. I learned from that people yell and scream when they're angry. Yes, right? And what's more dangerous is the impact, what's going to happen in his archive, his self-identification. Who am I? Based on what you're doing to him. Like in Ahmad's story, in the story that we said about Ahmad's dad, he called him silly, he called him stupid, I don't remember, he called him names. Or even if you don't call names, the implication of what you're saying can be damaging, and it forms, the self-image. Because little kids see themselves through their caregiver's eyes, whatever they're doing. And that's why we have to be careful with kids. They don't have the brain ability to filter that you're upset and you're wrong. That will happen later on, okay? But after that, they have an archive full of self-beliefs and beliefs about you and beliefs about the world and the environment and everything else. So that's why we need to be really, really careful when we deal with our kids. And that's why, Dr. Jane Nelson, the author of Positive Discipline, said something really profound. She said, where did we ever get the crazy idea that in order to make children do better, we have to make them feel worse? They have to feel bad first so they can do better. It doesn't work this way. It doesn't. And this, don't get me wrong, this does not mean that, okay, we're going to tell them whenever they make mistakes, we're going to say, oh yeah, okay, Habibi, it's okay, no problem. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying teach them the right way. That's all what I'm saying. You will still teach. There might be consequences. There might be problem solving. There are so many different positive strategies that you can use to help the child learn and correct his behavior, other than these punitive techniques that only damage. And although they might not be at the severity level like the ACEs, but if they are repeated, they do have long-term impact as well. Correct? So yes, maybe they work short-term because the kid's scared or because he doesn't know what to do, or you're more powerful than him or her, but then they are going to be ineffective on the long term, and the behavior will persist. Or even if the behavior changed, they will come up with a different behavior because their brain is not happy. They're not, the brain is not, no learning is going on. So they didn't learn anything, correct? And they're always in a status, if I'm always yelling and using those punitive techniques, then the kid is always will develop this resentment. Of course, in addition to damaging the relationship, but the kid does not feel his mistake. He is focusing on your mistake because you yelled and screamed at him. So in addition to that, it has long-term mental health effects. Like what? Again, effects of punishment. Like what? There are physical, by the way, physical effects. Correct? Like changing sleep habits, changing eating habits. Some kids will be sad. They might even go to depression, right? Or worry or anxious, whatever, you name it. But also there are physical impact. Basically all kind of pains, like neck pain, stomach pain, headaches, muscle pain, back pain, every kind of pain. I still remember one kiddo who would have pain every day, every single day, because of the way her teacher and actually she didn't do anything to her. She was just a witness. She was a very like calm and quiet girl, but she is witnessing every day how the teacher gets angry at the other kids who are not behaving. And guess what? Maybe the other kids didn't even bother. They found tactics actually to overcome that. Not that it's healthy. It's still unhealthy, by the way. But she ended up being stressed and having stomach pain every single day. So in addition to that, look at the impact. Building negative self-concepts, negative role modeling, affect the personality, morality, and most importantly, it affects the parent-child relationship, which is what we're talking about. Correct? So, and then you name some mental health disorder, chronic stress, lack of motivation. Sometimes parents will call me like, my son has lack of motivation. He doesn't do the chores. He doesn't do homework. He's not interested in anything. And when we talk a little bit after that, it's just the environment, the whole environment is kind of toxic, right? How do you want him to be motivated? It's not about the child, honestly, at this point, right? So subhanallah, even yani, in our deen, we have a lot of ahadith and ayat about being kind, and don't mix kindness with permissiveness, with not doing anything and just leaving everything just to go the way it goes. No one is saying be permissive. No one is saying that. Actually, permissiveness is equally bad as being harsh and punitive. Both are equally bad. Both have mental health effect on the kids, because kids need guidance. Remember, S number 6. So just leaving them to do whatever is not a good idea at all. But doing it correctly is what we are looking for. Okay, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in one of the hadith is like, lenience or kindness is not found in anything, but it adorns it, and is not removed from anything, but it makes it defective, right? That's the hadith of the Prophet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he was talking to Prophet Muhammad, he said, the ayah in Surah Ali Imran, he was talking to Prophet ﷺ about the Sahaba, by the way, and he was making it so by mercy from Allah, you were lenient with them. For had you been harsh and hard-hearted, they would all have broken away from you. لانفضوا من حولك ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. Right? So this harshness, I don't know why sometimes we adopt this as a mean of discipline, right? It's fear-based. We think if we make them afraid, then everything will be great. That's not true. That is not true, okay? In addition to, again, do you think only the kids will be stressed and have adverse effects? Even the parents who are always yelling and screaming, look at them. They have all kinds of pains, all kinds of, I would want to say, diseases, right? Inflammatory, immune system problems, heart sometimes, blood pressure, diabetes, you name it, right? But more importantly, they lose motivation in parenting. I still remember this one parent who called me and said, I'm so, I just want to leave. I want to leave. I just want to open the door and leave my family. Right? So it makes us not happy. It makes us not, when that is the environment, when we start yelling and screaming, and then the kids get old. Oh, her kids got older, and the dad is yelling and screaming, and everyone's like, so the kids started doing the same. No one's listening to anyone. What kind of dynamics is that? So again, it has long-term impact on everyone. So what can we do? So, okay, Muna, you're telling us, don't yell, don't scream, don't call names, don't, all of these don'ts. Then what are we going to do? Okay, that's for another course, but there are a lot of positive discipline strategies, okay? That a lot, like not one or two or three, there's a lot of alternatives that are healthy. But in order for us to implement them, we have to understand that the goal of discipline, the goal of, if our kids misbehave, okay, I agree, the kids misbehave, okay, fine, and it has to be corrected, we agree 100%, but with what conditions? What are the conditions? On what expense? Okay, is it on the expense of their mental health? No. So we have to make sure, whatever, I will give you this, I will agree 100% with you on those conditions. Use whatever strategy you want to use if you fulfill these two conditions. Number one, that while you're doing this strategy, you're not affecting the child's mental health negatively. Actually, you're supposed to be nurturing the mental health. You're supposed to be teaching skills. You're supposed to be teaching values. You're supposed to teach critical thinking, problem solving skills. You're supposed to teach like resilience. You're supposed to teach compassion and you're supposed to be teaching that while you are correcting or help the child correct the behavior. If you're doing that, great. This is condition number one. Condition number two, that whatever tactic you're using, it does not affect the relationship between you and the child. So you need to maintain a positive relationship built on secure attachment. After you fulfill these two conditions, do whatever you want. Okay? Then again, you'll tell me, okay, so what is left? What kind of tactic we're going to use that will keep these two conditions? It's any positive strategy. I know this is another course, and I don't want you to feel bad, because that's a whole maybe 5-6 session course, but just to let you know that all these are tactics that we can use to help our kids. These are positive, and they have steps, and we can use them in different situations. Depends, of course, on the situation and the misbehavior. Is it severe? Is it not? Is it repeated? Is it not? There are criteria, and then use those tactics. But those are positive tactics that not only will have long-term impact on the behavior, but will also nurture the brain, teach skills, and not only keep the relationship positive, but strengthen it more. And you will be appreciated. Okay? So that's the first item, is avoid using fear-based punitive strategies. Number two, repair the rupture in the relationship. What does this mean? Like, we are humans, right? We are going to make mistakes, no matter what, no matter how careful we are. Sometimes our lid will flip. We get, our archive works, our triggers hit, and we flip the lid, and we go with, like, they call it flipping the lid parenting moment, right? When we yell or do something wrong. When this happens, do not act as if it didn't happen. Do not just let go. You have to repair it. We need to repair. How are we going to repair? That's a good question. Repairing is but simply saying, that your behavior was not the best. I mean, if you even if you don't want to say the word sorry, although, I would question why, but anyways, but at least let the kid know that this is wrong. This is a mistake. It wasn't the best option. I didn't choose the best wording. I was but listen, there's a caveat here. Do not say you made me. That's one thing that we don't need to say or do. So when the child, okay, let's assume the child did something really bad, okay, and you got really angry. You still have the option of calming yourself down, taking some time before you correct, before you talk. But your brain chose, and I know sometimes it's a subconscious choice, to act immediately while you're having a flipped lid. So whenever, let me tell you this, whenever you have a flipped lid, there is a disconnection. You're not thinking with your rational brain. You're just doing the fight, flight, freeze. Do not make decisions. Never make a decision when you're upset or angry or frustrated to a level that your rational brain is not there. Because I can assure you that almost always is going to be wrong. It's a fight response. It will be a fight flight response, not a rational decision response. So do yourself a favor and take some time. Okay? There's no urgency in parenting. Just take some time. Say, I feel, not you made me feel. I feel upset now. So I need some time to think about it. Great. You're actually doing your son or daughter a great favor. Why? Because these are the benefits of the repair. When you repair, you're modeling healthy behavior. Even if you take a break, then you're modeling self-control. You didn't even make a mistake. You said, just give me some time. You catch yourself. You catch your lid being flipped. Oh my God, my lid is flipping. I'm going to lose it. So say, I'm not going to talk about this now. I need some time to think or to calm down. It's okay. Oh, this is great. And you're modeling self-control. You're modeling respect. But if you slip, and all of us will, we're humans. So every now and then we will slip, but it's not like, don't make it a pattern. We have to be more aware and more conscious. Okay, we're not going to slip every single day and apologize every single day 10 times. And no, we have to work on that, right? But still, we will slip. So when we slip, what do? We say, we're sorry. This was not the best behavior. I got upset or I got overwhelmed. I should have controlled myself better. And then talk about it. You don't have to talk about what he did at this point. You can talk about it later still if you feel you're not ready. So what's the benefit of doing that? Oh, bazillion benefits. But one of them is modeling healthy behavior. Is like you're teaching the kid the power of apology and repair. Like we make mistakes, we all make mistakes, and we apologize and we make amends. We correct our behavior. So your kid is not gonna feel like, when I make a mistake, I have parents who will tell me, my kid, he knows or she knows they're wrong, but they cannot admit that they're wrong. I wonder why, right? Because if you're modeling, of course, there are other reasons, but one big reason is if you're not modeling that, where are they going to learn it from? So this is number one. Number two, like they say, embrace the imperfection. Not that you're doing it on purpose, but we are imperfect beings. We try our best to be the best we can. We keep trying, we push ourselves, but eventually كل ابن آدم خطاء, right? I mean, all of us will make khata. All of us will sin. All of us will make mistakes, right? But then we have to repent or we have to fix. Even our deen say that. And our deen doesn't give us a green light to just then since you are going to be sinful, then go sin. No one said that. But strive and try not to fall in a sin. But if you do, because you became weak at this point, then you have to fix it. Same understanding, same context. Then the most important part of the repair, honestly, is you restore the connection and the respect. Basically, scientists, psychologists say when we have these like they call flip lid moments, what happens is, think about it as it causes a breach in the relationship. There's a crack, right? And what we need to do is, we need to, when we go and talk about it and apologize for doing that, it's as if you're kind of repairing that. You're re-establishing the connection with the kids, right? And they feel reconnected, they feel respected, right? They feel valued. And this will replenish their emotional bank account. They feel, oh, okay, I'm a human being. Mama, values me, and she comes and she said that she's wrong. That is something big. So never shy away from doing that repair, okay? They actually find also that when we go and apologize and do that, they found that parents who do that, the frequency of the outbursts or the flipping the lid and the intensity decrease. Because our brain, it looks like our brain is telling us, stop making mistakes and apologizing. Just for Allah's sake, just try to hold yourself in the right place. Don't keep doing that. So subhanallah, this is a finding that they found that apologizing or repairing reduced the frequency and intensity of that practice. And again, let me just say something. I'm not talking here about abuse. I'm not talking about ACEs. I'm talking about regular, I yelled, or, I did that, or I say a word that's not appropriate, right? Because if we go to the level of like the ACEs, abuse and neglect and all of that, that is, of course, you definitely can apologize, but at this point we need like a professional help, professional help here. We all need professional help, whether the kids or even the parents, because parents who are abusive need mental health help. No, they will just, sometimes it's really hard to do it on your own. Okay. Okay. One more item that I want to discuss is the impact of parental conflict in front of the kids. Okay. And I'm not here, again, I'm not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about domestic violence. I'm talking about when we have conflicts, and sometimes there is some screaming, verbal aggression, some manipulation, and this is happening in front of children. So when we fight, basically fighting, when we fight in front of children, again, this can be damaging, right? Not maybe to the level of ACEs, depends on where you are on the spectrum. Of course, it can go to the level of, because these are stressful events. The kid's brain perceive it as stressful. So it depends on the degree of stress, whether it's gonna turn into a trauma level or just a sub-trauma level. Let's call it this way, okay? In all cases, we need to be cognizant that our kids do not have the mental ability to understand a lot of things. And we as caregivers are their secure base. We are the source of safety. So when you are fighting, when the spouses are fighting together, I had one time, one parent asked me, said, it was me and my husband. It wasn't the kid. No one was fighting with the kid. Okay, I understand. But the kid is witnessing, right? And you two are the kid's source of safety and security. So when they see that, they're not thinking about your problems. They're thinking about their safety. What's going to happen to me? They are fighting to the source of my safety and security. Like, give me like vibes that I'm not safe anymore. Anything can happen. So I'm worried about myself, and that can be scary to a kid again. So what should we do? Does this mean that don't fight at all? Of course. I mean, let's be realistic. Sometimes we're humans again. Things will happen. But try to navigate your conflicts respectfully. Try to learn tactics and positive strategies. Again, by the way, some of the strategies that we use with the kids for positive discipline strategies, we use, we're humans. These are all kind of relationship strategies. It's a relational strategy. So we can use it like problem solving. Problem solving is a technique that you use with your kids, use with your husband, use with your colleagues at work. Companies use it. So what I'm saying is try to navigate your conflict, especially if it's in front of the kids. Try to navigate it respectfully, okay, and constructively. The aim or the goal of a conflict is to resolve it, not to blame, which is the trap that we as parents fall, or we as humans fall in. It's like we fall into the trap of who's right and who's wrong, who's to be blamed. We forgot that at the end of the day, the aim is to find a solution. So if we're able to learn some skills to do that, that actually can be beneficial experience to the kids, because they will learn from you how to navigate conflicts, how to solve them in a positive way, constructively. But if you cannot do it, then take your fights somewhere else. Don't do it in front of the kids. Okay? So if you're able to have this conflict and talk about it in a positive way, teach the kids, great, 100%, go for it. But if you cannot, please, 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 just take it away. Just go to your room. Just go to a place in the house where they cannot hear you. I would suggest, if this happens all the time, get some help. Get some professional help, okay? So this is that. Number C, and that is the last point in how to make your kids feel safe. So we talked about the ACEs. We talked about the using fear-based strategies. We said we're not going to use them, and if we do, we need to repair. Now we want to talk about creating a safe and positive home environment. And by home environment here, I want to talk about the daily interactions, our day-to-day interactions, okay? Meaning what? Meaning, kids are more likely to follow rules. These are data that research found that, this is not me saying that kids are more likely to follow rules when they feel loved and respected. When we respected, that they are respected. When they feel respected and loved and valued, they will cooperate, because kids want to cooperate. Like Dr. Ross Green said, and I think also Dr. Jane Nelson, they said, kids do good when they feel good. Okay, so they want to be cooperating. They want to, because they want to connect. You're valuable to them when we have the secure attachment, when we have this relationship. So if we try to make our daily interactions, the little interactions on daily basis, healthy and positive, that will make our lives so much easier, so much easier. Okay. So like what shapes the home environment is basically the little things, the small everyday moments. When you compile them together, it will be the day. Like, this is the home environment. So what are most interactions that fall throughout the day, other than we spoke about when they make mistakes. We said about the punishment and use positive techniques and everything. Now we're talking about the common daily interactions. How can we make them more positive? Okay, so most of these interactions fall into one of two categories. Either the kids are asking you for something, yani you are, handling their requests, okay? Or you are asking them to do something or not to do something, or to stop doing something. Those are the main two interactions that happen throughout the day. Okay, other than that, I hope the rest of it is love and care and play and the rest of the stuff that we'll talk about in the rest of the S's, right? This is the S for safe now. Okay. So let's talk about handling kids' requests. So when kids ask us, Mama, I want to eat chocolate. I want to go to my friend's house. I want across the board, like from little ones to older. They ask for things and we either say yes or no. So first part of this is say yes whenever possible. Say yes whenever possible. Now someone will tell me, oh, so now when the kids ask something, I would just say yes? No, I didn't say that. I said whenever possible. Why did I say that? Let me tell you. Statistics said that parents of 2 years old, the kiddo is 2 years old. 2, bas, only 2. Say no, the parents tell the kid no 77% of the time. 77%. So the kids become sensitized and actually tired of this word. It has a psychology. It's called the psychology of no. By the way, same thing, emotional brain. It's emotional brain reaction. So the problem is we use no automatically. Sometimes we call it the automatic no. Parents just say no as a default. Like that's my setting. My setting, the default is no, right? Without really fully considering the situation, what they're talking about, if there are other exits or maybe you need more information before you say yes or no, we just no, we say no. So the problem is just say no when you need it and when you mean it. Okay, and we'll talk about this more. But the thing is, we don't also want to fall into the pitfalls of excessive yes. It's like, everything is yes, 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 yes. That is called permissiveness. So I'm not promoting for permissiveness and saying yes for everything because you're afraid of a conflict or afraid that he will throw a tantrum or this or that, because some parents do that. That's equally wrong. Okay? Or because some parents want to be friends with their kids and they want them to love them, so they tell them yes, yes, yes for everything. That's not parenting. That's not parenting. Okay, so what is the right? The right is to strike the balance. Whenever your kid come to ask you for something, pause and think. Just take a few seconds to think. Is it okay to approve of it or not? And if not, why am I saying no? Right? Is there a reason to say no? So just avoid these knee-jerk no's. It's like, no. Mama, I want this. No. Mama, I want to eat strawberries. No. It's like, right? So there must be a reason. If there's a reason, okay. So using no when necessary. And when is no necessary? When there's a safety issue, something that has to do with safety or well-being, of course, or when they're crossing some boundaries, something that you don't approve of course, use the no. But sometimes that's the problem. We use it not for these. We just use it as a default. Or sometimes we think it's a boundary in our mind and it's not. Like, for example, I think I have this under, the psychology of no. So for example, when I want to, let's say, bathe in my swimsuit. I want to take a shower in my swimsuit. Okay. Parents will say sometimes, no. طيب, why did we say no? Right? Sometimes there's no reason. Sometimes, what if? I mean, if it bothers you, okay, say no. If you have a strong reason, say no. But sometimes because it's not familiar, no one, let's say, take a shower in his swimsuit. Okay, so I will say no. Okay, so just stop. Just give it. Sometimes it's a cultural no, and there's nothing wrong. It's just you get into the habit of that's not accepted. But when you think about it, it's like, why not? I don't see anything wrong with it. So why am I just saying no? So those pauses that I'm talking about, I'm not talking about rules, defying rules. I'm not talking about safety measures or safety issues? Of course not. That's when we have to absolutely say no. But the problem is, no now has a psychology. It's called the psychology of no, which is what? Which is basically the same psychology as fight, flight, freeze, basically, because it goes into our brain, goes to emotion. No, 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 everything's no, everything's no. If the kids at 2 are hearing no 77% of the time. By the way, there are videos online that will you can even search like babies or kiddos, toddlers, parents say no. You will find the kids is like the mom will say no or the dad will say no, and the kid will immediately cry or frown or, clinch, whatever. Okay. So what happens is no kind of also stimulate the same pathway, same fight, flight, freeze response. Okay. So, but now, if I want to say no, what can I do? If I am like habitually saying no, and now I want to change it, they tell you something really nice. They say, there is an alternative. There is an alternative to saying no by saying what we call the conditional yes. What's that? Basically, no kind of has now a psychological effect on the brain. And yes is a good word to the brain. The brain reads it well. Okay, but what about the rule? You will still not approve, but by saying yes. How does this happen? That's a puzzle. No, it's not a puzzle. Basically, most of what the kids ask for, right? It's kind of you're deceiving the brain in a way. But so most of the stuff that kids ask for are usually things like that are okay most of the time, but maybe this is not the right time or the right amount or the right frequency, something like that. So they tell you, rather than just saying no, say a yes, that's conditional. For example, I want to, can I go out and play? So instead of saying no, you cannot, or no until you finish your chores, you can just say yes as soon as you finish your chores. It's the same. So here, it's the same thing. He's not going to go, right? But rather than just say, no, you didn't finish, that creates some kind of resentment because of the abuse of the word no. So make it more of a positive experience, right? I want to, can I take a bath? Yes, you can after you finish homework. I want to go to my grandma and visit her. Absolutely, on Saturday. Stuff like that, right? So a lot of times, or actually most of the time, you can condition it. So rather than just making the brain, oh, it's always no, it's always no, it's always no, mama always say no, mama always, rather than doing that, condition it with the rule. And what we care about at the end of the day is the fact that this thing will happen or not happen. Whether by saying yes or no, it doesn't matter. Because you kept your rule, you kept your standard. No one is saying here, oh, defy your own standard. We're not promoting for that. But sometimes you have to say, whether you like it or not, you will eventually have to say no. Okay. But if you decide, because let's say I want to eat 10 boxes of chocolate. No, right? Or I want to go sleep over. I want to go for, and you're not one of the parents who approve of that for safety, whether physical, mental, emotional safety. You don't like that. Okay, so your rule is, for example, no sleepovers, for example. So you have to hold on to your rule, correct? So those situations are not conditioned because you're not going to say after something. No, it's not. So whenever you're going to say no, and it's okay to say no, it's actually healthy to say no in the sense of developing rules and guidelines and standards. But kind of combine no with two things: empathy and reason. That's attunement. Remember? Attunement and responsiveness. Let's say he wants to go for a sleep. Everyone, all his friends are going for a sleepover, and he's the only one who's not going. Right? To you, that's nonsense. Let's assume to you it's nonsense. Why do they go and spend that night together and do silly things? And I that's your brain thinking, right? And you definitely have concerns. No problem with that, but you need to explain them. But first, you have to attune to his environment. That's what we're talking about. Attune to his internal state. In his brain, what is he saying? Think this way. What is my son saying in his brain? How does his brain feel? You have to put yourself in his shoes as his age and his situation, not as yours. And then take him to where you are. So, for example, you can say, you have to be empathetic. You have to validate the feelings. You can say something like, yeah, I understand. I know it sounds like so much fun. I know that you might feel left out when you don't go, or your friends will have memories and things between them that you're not included in, and I understand this. So you have to kind of empathize, right? Attune and validate the feeling. That's responsiveness. Validate the feeling, right? And then do the action. Here you give the reason. Tell him or her why you don't approve of, let's say, sleepovers, or why you can't let them eat 10 boxes of chocolate. Are they going to be happy? No, because they want what they want. And it's not our job to just make our kids feel happy on no basis. That's not our job. Yeah, we want them to feel happy whenever possible. But when it comes to safety and rules and guidelines, they don't have to be happy, but they have to be respected. Okay? They have to be validated and respected. So if your kid wants to eat those 10 boxes of chocolate and sugar, that's not something, you cannot make him happy this way. But definitely you can respect him, you can validate him, you can say, oh, I know it sounds that you want to eat something sweet, you have this sweet tooth and you want this and that. I love sugar too, or I love chocolate too, right? So empathize, put yourself in his shoes. Okay, of course I'm giving like a not a realistic example, but just to make the point clear, is that empathize with his state of mind and then give the reason and say, I wish I can, but if you eat all that chocolate, then this can affect your blood sugar, this can cause this and that, this is a safety issue, right? So I cannot do this to you, right? So that is using the no. So no plus empathy plus reason, or I would say empathy and validation plus reason. Okay. Now, if they keep nagging, because some parents will say, oh, but when I say no and I do that the first time, then they keep nagging and asking again. When they nag, just take it easy, okay? Because just imagine what's going on in their brain. In their brain is telling them, tell her again, put some pressure. Maybe she will say yes. She used to say yes in the past, especially that if you're one of those parents who used to say no and then change it into yes. That can be the most dangerous, because it always gives the kid this sense of, when is she going to say yes? Maybe if I put pressure, maybe if I beg, maybe if I yell, maybe if I throw a tantrum, maybe, right? So we teach them that, unfortunately. So the thing is, when if they keep nagging, just say it nicely, repeat it one more time. The positive discipline will tell you to say something along the lines, like it says, I love you, and the answer is no. And I would recommend saying something like, I understand how you feel, but we already settled this. Or you don't have to make it any, okay, depends on your personality, depends on the kid's personality. Anything that will make you feel there's harshness, there's no need for it. At the end of the day, it's no. Correct? So you don't have to to be harsh while you're saying no. There's no need. The goal is, remember, the goal is that it's not going to happen. That's your goal. So we don't have to be mean about it. We can be understanding, we can be empathetic, but at the end of the day, it's not, right? Okay. That's if they ask. This is how to respond to their requests. Now, when we ask, okay? When we ask, do you hear yourself sometimes saying those statements, or do these statements sound familiar? Let's say you or someone you know, that's okay, yelling, how many times do I have to tell you to pick up your stuff? Or if you don't pick up your backpack right now, you're going to lose your screen time for 2 weeks. Or what's wrong with you? Can't you ever remember to pick your plate up and put it in the dishwasher or the sink? Or I'm so disappointed at you. You know, I thought I could trust you, or, you know, to take care of your own things, but I guess I'm wrong. You always let me down. Or you're so messy, you know, clean up everything or I will trash it. I literally know parents who trash toys. You know, you're not leaving the table without finishing your veggie, you know, and so on and so forth. These are sentences that are repeated, and these are, you know, as you see, these are not something big. There's not like misbehaviors. These are little things that happen along throughout the day that you need to respond to, right? You need to talk to the kids about. Or sometimes if they are frequently repeated, then you have to set some rules and boundaries and maybe sometimes consequence, and that's totally fine. But sometimes it's this little daily interactions. So what we do is we're always nagging and commanding. Come remove your backpack. Put your backpack in this. Put your shoes in the shoe rack. Go wash your hands. Say the dua. Eat your food. Finish your plate. Put it in the dishwasher. Now go study. Now study math. Now study English. Now, you know, so one of the ways we do things is we keep nagging and commanding and, you know, giving instructions. And that can be so bothering to the brain, not to the kid, to any brain, right? Blaming, accusing, shaming, name calling. Again, remember, these are kind of the same tactics that we use to, the punitive tactics that we use to deal with misbehaviors. But here we use them for the little things in one sentence, like, you know, are you crazy? Like, are you crazy? Why don't you put this back in place? Why are you so lazy? Remove your, you know, jacket and put it in the bedrooms. These little things every day. And if this is the environment that we live in on daily basis, that can be so negative, right? So research found something really interesting when it comes to nagging or telling. They found that kids, they get told what to do or what not to do, okay, for an average of 400 times per day. 400 times. Yes, we do that. Between us and the teachers, the adults, correct? We're always telling them, do this or don't do this. We don't feel it because it's just little things. So if we're doing it in such a nagging way, or blaming, or shaming, or accusing, or name calling, or being sarcastic, or comparing, or threatening, you know, if we're doing these tactics are heavy on the brain. The brain doesn't like, even our brains, think about it this way. Do you like it? No, you will not like it. So they also instigate the same pathway, the fight, flight, freeze response. They're not just like the no kind of psychology. So they're not pleasant. So, okay, what can we do? So now we're not going to even give instructions to our kids. No, we are, inshallah, no worries. But the thing is it's just the way we do it, right? It's the way we do things. We need to be respectful. If you think about all these tactics, these are not very respectful tactics. These are, you know, they have a sense of like put down in them. No one likes to keep nagging. If it's something repeated, okay, come up with a plan and a consequence and apply the concept. Let them learn by this way. Sit and problem solve together and see how you can make this work together. There are so many different ways we can do that other than just those tactics, basically. Okay, so because although our intention is not to disrespect them, yet these are so disrespectful. And if you want a proof, just think if your spouse will talk to you in the same way, or your sister or your colleague at work will talk to you in that same way, how would you feel? By the way, remember, we said kids have feelings too. Yeah. And not only that, but kids have feelings since birth. They feel. Rational brain is the one that is developing, but feelings are there. So they feel the thing. It's just maybe they don't have a voice, or maybe we think they don't understand, or they don't perceive it as disrespectful, but they do. They do. It is disrespectful. This respect is a human value, right? وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. يعني we are honored. So let's respect each other. Even if they make mistakes, okay, fine, teach them. In every positive way, teach them. But not disrespect, okay? Now, what can we do then? So instead of using those negative tactics in this column on the screen, we can use these tactics, okay? So rather than doing the nagging and commanding and blaming and shaming and comparison and, okay, we have a list that you can pick and choose from this list, ways just for the little things that happen throughout the day, just to make it more positive and more pleasant and gain cooperation. They call them, these are cooperation tools, right? To gain cooperation of the kid. Like what? Maybe I can give a couple of examples if we have more time. Yes, we can give. For example, when one of the tactics, and you can do a mix and match based on the situation. Sometimes you will choose the one up there, sometimes you will choose another one, so it depends on situation and your preference as well. So ask, don't tell. What is ask, don't tell? Ask, don't tell is a tactic that you will find in Positive Discipline by Jane Nelson again. And when I say ask here, a lot of people would mistakenly think that asking is ask whether to do the task or not. Like, do you want to remove your plate or not? No, that's not the asking we're talking about. The asking we're talking about is basically you're asking about the way he will remove it or what should be done, rather than do it yes or no. It's more of a problem solving kind of question. For example, rather than saying put the milk in the fridge, okay, you can say where does the milk go? So you're not giving the option. You're not giving the option for the child to put the milk back. He's gonna put it back or she's gonna put it back. But rather than saying put the milk into the fridge and then bring me a cup of water, and that, this too much. That's why we say just do a mix and match of these positive tactics, right? So you can say, hey Ali, where does the milk go? See, it's nicer, you're calmer, you're more positive. This mood of yours can change the mood of the whole house. But when you're like, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, how many times do I have to say the milk is outside and it's gonna, get raw? Well, we're creating negativity. At the end of the day, the message is one: put the milk in the fridge. How do you do it? How do you say it is the key. Okay. Okay, so so that is ask, don't. For example, don't wait until the last minute. Rather than saying don't wait until the last minute to do your homework or your report, okay, or you will get a low grade every time you do that. Rather than doing this, you can just say, what is your plan to finish your assignment on time? It's an ask, but this is not, are you going to do your assignment or not? Because obviously he's supposed to do the assignment. It's just basically problem solving. So that's one tactic that you can use. Okay, another tactic is to describe. So rather than saying, put this book back on the shelf, you're so disorganized, and I'm so disappointed in you, which we use those tactics. You can just say, describe, just say, we all use this book, and we want to make sure that the book is in place when we need it. That's a more positive way of sending the same message. The message is the same. Okay, I didn't say let go, don't let him put it back. I'm not saying that. The message is the same. It's just the way we do it, right? It's the way we do things. Give information. For example, rather than saying, now who left the milk bottle outside of the fridge? You're so irresponsible. How many times do I have to say that? Rather than this, okay? We can just say, kids, milk turns sour when it's left outside the fridge. Okay? Or you can simply say it in a word, which is one of the tactics, like, kids, the milk, you're just reminding them. I was like, oh, okay. By the way, I know when you're listening to me now, you're probably saying, oh, I wish it was that easy. So I will say that and they will do it. Listen, if this is your daily interaction, if now we're having this relationship, if now I'm respecting them and I'm talking to them positively, yes, they will listen. Yes, they will listen. But if you're always using negative tactics and now you want to prove that these tactics are not going to work, so you've been blaming and shaming and accusing and judging and comparing and doing all of that, and then the first time now you're using it, one time you came and say, kids, the milk will sour, and they looked at you and didn't do anything, don't be surprised. They're not used to that. They need training. You need training. They need, you need to fix. You need to fix what happened before. You need to be consistent, meaning consistently positive and consistently respectful. And when we do that, and when the kids get attached, because one of the miracles of attachment is that kids who are attached, subhanallah, this is something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease our job, is they want to keep the connection. They want to keep you happy. They want to keep connecting with you, not happy as in like happy doing everything you want, but they tend to cooperate. They don't want this disruption in the relationship. But they go for it when our relationship turns sour or we turn to be harsh. So their brain is taking it totally different. Then they start resenting, and then they start rebelling, and then right? So we participate in that. So we need to kind of shift the dynamics of our relationship and these tactics will work. Actually, they will work like greatly. Other tactic would be something along the lines, for example, offer a choice. Let's see. Offer a choice. Like, for example, instead of saying, I see you're using the paint and I'm gonna, last time you messed up the place and I'm gonna take it from you. I will never give it to you back. See the roughness? Okay, you can always say, Ali, when do you have when you do your art project today, please, you can either use the crayons or the pencil. Simple as that. You're not giving the option. You give choices that do not, the choices do not include paint. And if you said, but I want paint, mama, you can always continue the discussion by saying, yeah, I understand the validation. I understand that you want that, but I'm afraid that sometimes when we use paint, it makes a mess. Maybe he will offer you something. Maybe you can work something out. Wallahi, kids are so cooperative if we're able to give them this opportunity, I would say. Right? They said, okay, let me make sure I can bring the plastic sheet and put it, and maybe I can do it outside in the backyard if it's like a good day, or maybe this and that, and maybe he will work with you on a solution. They want to do that. They like, if they feel good, they will do good. Okay. Writing a note. it actually works. Not for everything. That's why I'm saying, sometimes you're going to use this, sometimes this. These are different tactics that you can use, like alternate. Like, you would put on the bed, like, maybe put a card or a note like clean me, or, don't forget me on the backpack, or, these are fine. He will smile and take it, or, I know this is not going to be like an everyday thing. You might do it once in a while. Okay. Or, simply you can do like they say, do the unexpected, which is be funny, be playful. And I find this one of the most successful tactics, and it creates a very positive atmosphere in the house, right? Is like to be funny, to say things in a different tone, or sing about cleaning, or you don't have to sing it like a real song. Just create something. It's like, like a please be quiet song, or in a squeaky voice, or say a joke about the situation, not sarcastic. When I say a note about the situation, not the kid, not sarcastic of his behavior. Because I know some parents, when I say that, they make fun of the kid. That's sarcasm. That's not being funny. If you're the only one laughing, that's not funny, right? So be playful. If you have a good sense of humor, that can save you. It can save your whole family, because it will put the whole household in a positive tone, in a positive vibe. The environment will be more positive. Okay. So, and then at the end of the day, you can still tell. I don't want to scare you from telling. Eventually, we're going to tell our kids, do this or don't do this. But when we do that, there are criteria for telling, right? What criteria for telling? Like, make it first, make the telling positive. Even telling them, make it sound positive, and make it also really positive. Meaning, instead of saying things like "don't do that," why don't you say them what to do? Especially tell them, I'm sorry, what to do. Especially younger kids, like rather than saying, don't jump on the bed. You can just say, like, instead of stop jumping on the bed, you will ruin the box or whatever. You can just say, please sit on the bed. Hey, Ali, please sit on the bed. That's more positive. And sometimes especially with young kids, those who have younger kids, when we tell them what not to do, their brain does not really know what to do instead for younger kids. So it's easier to tell them what to do rather than telling them what not to do. Okay? So just be positive. Number 2, be specific. Don't say, we're going to the grocery store and I want you to behave. What's that? What's behave? Because maybe behave from your perspective is different than behave. Like for her, when she touches every single bar of chocolate or every single box in the aisle, that's not misbehaving to her, right? But to you, it is. To be more specific, you can say, when we go to the grocery store, we can let's hold hands. Or when we go to the grocery stores, you can sit on you can get that cart that has a seat for the child. Or you can only get the stuff that I will tell you to get, whatever it is. Okay. So be specific when you give instructions, especially with little kids. And most importantly, the voice. Your voice and your facial expression and your body language represents more than 90% of the message. 90. What you're telling even if you're using all these good strategies and positive on paper tactics, you can ruin them by the wrong tone of voice, the wrong facial expression, and the wrong body language. Meaning, I can tell my kid, something, the words are correct, no problem with that. You know what they found? Before I give you the example, that 7% of the message is the wording. It represents 7% of the message that people receive. Okay? The other 93% is divided between the tone of voice, the tone of your voice, how you're saying it, your facial expressions, and body language. So you can tell someone to please stop and be quiet, and you're like that, please stop and, let's be quiet. That's nice. That's a more pleasant versus stop. Let's be quiet. Now add the scary eyes. And now add your hands on your waist. And now add the frown. Say the same sentence. Totally different message, right? So be careful with the way you send your message. And if there's one advice that I will give you at the very end, we're almost done with our first S, and all of them are important, honestly, but it's the core of the secure attachment. But the advice is try to make all your expression, your voice tone, your whatever you're saying. I cannot tell you what to say, right? But if you got it right, how to say it, if you're able to attune to your child and understand his mentality, and then that's the first part, and then know how to say the instructions, you can say it in whichever way you want, and it will come out right. People try to give those tactics because sometimes people are desperate. If you don't understand what's behind the message, it's that the positivity is what's behind the message, is to deliver it in a positive way, in an understanding way, yet firm. That's why the slogan for positive discipline is kind and fair. Yes, they will have to take care of business, but be kind when you say it. Be respectful. I like to add respect because sometimes, people get confused about kind and respect. Be respectful to that person. Be kind in your tone. Be kind in your facial expression. Come from like a positive demeanor, and you will find miracles, because the brain of the child will perceive this as, yeah, she's nice, maybe I should just do it. I don't want to do it, but I will still do it. And if they are connected, I would want to say that 90% of these daily interactions will just vanish. You will still have, of course, the big ones, that they cannot get over. Of course, technology is a big one, and stuff like that. But you can definitely figure this out through positive tactics, problem solving, giving like choices. There are so many different ways to do that. And that's in another course, inshallah. I guess with that, so the last question is, should we beg our kids then? Because it sounds to someone who's been listening to me now for last couple of hours that I'm basically telling you to beg your kids to do things and to be just nice and cute. And again, I know I repeated this maybe 10 times now, but I want to repeat it one last time. We should not be permissive either. No one is promoting for permissiveness. What we're saying is we just want to change this bossy tone, this bossy controlling tone, this angry tone and expression into a supportive and enthusiastic approach. We are going to change the tone and the format of what we're saying, okay? So we communicate effectively, we're not begging, and we're not compromising on our expectations or standards. We're not. No one asked for compromises. You will keep your standards, you will keep your expectation as long as they are realistic expectations, of course, right? But change the way you do things, okay? That is what we really want to change. These are the references, and these are the QR codes for the website, for the English group, Instagram, and for the YouTube. Feel free to scan them and join. And inshallah, we came to the end of our session. Jazakum Allah khair for attending. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق صدق الله العظيم.